Excluded from my sister's wedding, I went on vacation. When the wedding fell apart, my whole family frantically tried to reach me. Part 1, My Sister's Wedding, minus me. If you told me a year ago that I'd end up skipping my own sister's wedding and sunbathing in the Caribbean while her big day crumbled like a 3-tiered buttercream cake, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. I wasn't always the black sheep type. My sister and I were never best friends, but we were tight enough to share clothes in high school and swap stories about dates gone wrong over boxed wine during college breaks. We were close in a weird, passive way, never that open, but we orbit each other like moons that just miss colliding. There was history. There was warmth. I thought that was enough. Until she got engaged. That engagement ring might as well have been the red button on a detonator. It turned my sister into someone I didn't recognize. I don't mean she went full bridezilla overnight. It was slower than that, more like a system update that makes your phone glitchy and weird. At first, I was excited. I was genuinely happy for her. I helped her brainstorm proposal photos, sent her links to cute venues, even started looking at flight prices because we live a few states apart. And then, silence. I didn't hear from her for weeks. No updates. No group texts about dress colors or flower choices. Not even a, thinking of doing sage green and blush, what do you think? Nothing. I figured she was just busy. Weddings are stressful. Planning takes time. But then Mom called. She casually mentioned the bridal shower. As in, the one I hadn't been invited to. That had already happened. That my aunts and cousins had flown in for. I was stunned. I checked my messages like I had missed something. Maybe a rogue email invite went to spam. Nope. I'd been excluded. Underscore 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 underscore. I sat on my bed that night, just holding my phone, staring at the blank message thread with my sister's name at the top. I couldn't bring myself to text her. I kept asking myself, did we fight? Did I say something? Did I forget her birthday? Nope. Nothing. It wasn't personal, at least not obviously. But it felt intentional. So I waited. Maybe she'd reach out. Maybe she'd apologize, blame it on wedding stress, say she'd meant to include me but forgot. She didn't. Instead, I got a save the date in the mail a week later. Generic cardstock. Printed. No note. No, can't wait to see you. Just, details. The kicker. I wasn't in the bridal party. I stared at that thing for a full minute, rereading it like maybe I was misinterpreting the font. Not a bridesmaid. Not a reader. Not a candlelighter or a vow witness or whatever weird ceremonial thing people add to weddings these days to pad the rolls. Just a guest. Underscore 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 underscore. At that point, something in me snapped. It wasn't just about the wedding. It was about the years of quiet disrespect. The tiny ways I'd been left out of group plans. The family dinners where I was told last minute. The photos she posted with all our cousins and tagged me in only after I commented, looks fun. I realized I wasn't just not in the wedding. I wasn't in her life. So I made a decision. I wasn't going. Not out of spite. But out of self-respect. I booked a trip instead. 7 days, 6 nights in the Bahamas. Ocean view. Adult-only resort. A pool that sparkled like a filtered Instagram story. It cost a little more than I wanted to spend, but it felt necessary. Like therapy in SPF 50. I sent my RSVP, regretfully decline. Didn't explain. Didn't offer excuses. Didn't even text her. Let the silence speak. Underscore 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 underscore. And the wildest part? That's not even where the story gets juicy. Because while I was sipping a mango daiquiri in a private cabana, my sister's wedding was busy imploding. But we'll get there. Let's just say, the universe has a flair for irony. Part 2, while she was tying the knot, I was unwinding. So there I was, barefoot, burnt just enough to glow, watching turquoise waves roll across sand so white it looked filtered. No speeches. No dresses. No forced smiles or photos I'd never see again. Just me, a paperback novel I wasn't really reading, and a whole ocean of peace. The wedding was 2 days away. And my phone? Silent. No texts from my sister. No last minute, wish you were here. No dramatic cousin group chat full of prep photos. Just silence. And I let it stay that way. I wasn't going to chase closure. Not this time. Underscore 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 underscore. Every morning, I woke up early and wandered down to the beach with a coffee in hand. I watched couples argue over sunscreen and watched a toddler throw a tantrum about sand in his shoes. Normally, that kind of thing would have stressed me out. But somehow, it just made me feel lucky. Not lucky to be alone necessarily. Just lucky to be far away from the chaos I would have been knee-deep in otherwise. On the third day, I met a group of solo travelers at the pool bar. One of them had just left her job. Another was celebrating a divorce. We toasted to doing hard things for the right reasons, and I think that was the first time I really admitted, to someone else and myself, that missing my sister's wedding hadn't been a mistake. It had been a boundary. One I should have set years ago. Underscore 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 underscore. Back home, though, things were unraveling. I didn't know the full story yet, but Mom sent a cryptic text the night before the wedding. Wish you were here. It's tense. That's it. No details. Just a ... kind of message that screams stuff's going down but I can't say more. I stared at that message, phone in one hand, frozen cocktail in the other, and just sighed. Because I knew exactly what she meant. Underscore 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 underscore. My sister had always been dramatic. Not in the scream at people in public way. More like the emotional microaggressions kind of way. The kind who'd cry if you brought the wrong wine to dinner. The kind who'd post vague Instagram captions after any argument. The kind who made you feel bad for not reading her mind. And weddings? Oh, weddings were her ultimate stage. So when things started falling apart, I wasn't shocked. Not really. Underscore 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 underscore. Apparently, the groom's mom was being difficult. Like, threatened to cancel catering level difficult. She hated the flower arrangements. Thought the venue was tacky. Told the bride side of the family they were lucky to be included. Charming, right? There was also a drama with the maid of honor, her best friend since college, who allegedly hooked up with one of the groomsmen the night before and was now refusing to stand beside her at the altar. It was giving chaos. It was giving reality TV. And I was watching the whole thing unfold via text from my mom and screenshot messages from my cousin, who was suddenly giving off gossip reporter energy. She's in her room crying. The groom hasn't responded to her last message. Grandma said she's praying for peace but also told Aunt Lisa this wedding feels cursed. Y'all. I was on vacation. But I was also front row in the group chat. Underscore 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 underscore. That night, I did something I didn't expect. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Because even though it felt good to know I wasn't crazy for feeling left out, watching everything fall apart didn't bring me joy either. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And peace doesn't live in the play-by-play of someone else's unraveling. Part 3, The Wedding Without Me. The morning of my sister's wedding, I slept in. No alarm. No flower delivery calls. No forced group photos in matching robes. Just ocean breeze through the sliding glass door, a ridiculously soft bed, and silence. When I finally checked my phone, I had 27 unread messages. Most were from the cousin group chat. One from Mom. One from my aunt. And, for the first time in months, one from my sister. I didn't open hers first. That felt like giving it too much power. Instead, I started with my cousin's messages, which read like live tweets from a disaster movie. Maid of honor still MIA. Hair and makeup woman left early because of a hostile environment. Groom's mom said she's stepping in to make things run smoother. Unclear if this is now her wedding or what. It was the exact kind of chaos I would have been expected to fix if I had shown up. The kind that would have left me sweaty, crying in a bathroom stall, while someone screamed about table runners. Instead, I was sipping pineapple juice in a hotel robe. Underscore 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 underscore. Then I opened the message from mom. It was short. I hope you're resting. I'm proud of you. I read it twice. That line, I'm proud of you, hit harder than I expected. Not because I needed the approval, but because for the first time, it felt like someone saw the strength it took to walk away from a toxic cycle, even if it meant missing a milestone. My aunt's message was different. I think she regrets not including you. Maybe. But maybe she only regretted it because things were falling apart. There's a difference between missing someone and missing what they do for you. Underscore 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 underscore. Finally, I opened my sister's message. It was, weirdly casual. Hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say hi. No mention of the wedding. No, wish you were here. Just, hi. Like we hadn't gone radio silent for 6 months. Like I wasn't the only sibling not in attendance. Like she hadn't excluded me from every meaningful part of her big day until it was collapsing in on itself. I didn't respond. Not out of spite. Not to punish her. I just didn't have anything to say that wouldn't reopen the wound. And sometimes silence is the cleanest closure. Underscore 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 underscore. By noon, the wedding was happening, barely. I got a photo from my cousin of the ceremony space. Half the chairs were empty. The bridesmaids looked tense. The groom's mom was front and center, smiling like she'd won something. Another cousin texted. It feels off. Like, cursed or something. I didn't disagree. That's the thing about events built on shaky ground. They can look picture perfect, but the cracks show eventually. In forgotten invitations. In fake smiles. In speeches that feel like obligation instead of celebration. Underscore 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 underscore. I spent that night watching the sunset with a glass of wine and no one to impress. I thought about my sister. I wondered if she knew what she'd lost, not just me as a wedding guest, but me as a person who had always shown up. Always bent. Always accommodated. And now. I was done. Not out of anger. But because peace was louder than obligation. And once you taste peace, it's hard to settle for anything less. Part 4, the post-wedding narrative war. Weddings end. But the stories? Those last way longer. 3 days after the wedding, I was back home. My tan was starting to peel, my inbox was overflowing, and the world was moving on. But my family? Still very much in crisis mode. The cousin chat was still active, but the tone had changed. Less gossip. More confusion. She hasn't posted any photos. She deleted the wedding album. Why did she remove her maid of honor from Instagram? It was clear something had gone wrong. And not just the small stuff. The kind of wrong that made people untag themselves in group photos and leave early without saying goodbye. I hadn't expected to hear much from my sister. She'd already sent that vague, hope you're okay, text. But then, 2 days after I landed, she called. I didn't answer. She called again. Then again. Finally, I got a voicemail. I just wanted to talk. I feel like you think I didn't want you there. But that's not true. My stomach twisted. Because, it was true. She didn't want me there. Or at least, she didn't want to include me until she needed emotional labor. And now that things had fallen apart, she wanted to rewrite the narrative. Underscore 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 underscore. Mom called the next day. She's upset. She thinks you're icing her out. I nearly laughed. She iced me out for 6 months and left me off every invite list. I know, Mom said. But people do weird things under pressure. Sure. But this wasn't just pressure. It was a pattern. Still, I didn't want to drag Mom into it. So I just said, I'm not mad. I'm just done pretending we're closer than we are. And I meant it. Underscore 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 underscore. That week, photos from the wedding finally started to pop up. Not from her. From guests. They were fine. Pretty, even. But soulless. No sparkle in her eyes. No candid joy. Just stiff poses and forced grins. One photo made me pause. It was a group shot of the family. Everyone was there. Everyone but me. And yet no one looked comfortable. That used to wreck me. Seeing people gather without me. Wondering if I was forgotten. But this time, I felt detached. Like I was finally outside the dysfunction instead of drowning in it. Underscore 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 underscore. My therapist, yes, I started seeing one after the vacation, said something that stuck. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is not show up to prove a point, but to protect your peace. That's what I'd done. I didn't ghost the wedding for revenge. I took my name off the guest list because I realized I was never really invited to the relationship in the first place. Part 5, the call that should have happened years ago. It took another week, but I finally picked up when my sister called. No build-up. No dramatic lead-in. I just answered one afternoon while folding laundry, as if I hadn't been dodging her for days. Hey, she said. Her voice sounded small. Not sad, just careful. Hey. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was loaded. Like both of us were waiting for the other to crack. She finally spoke first. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. That caught me off guard. Not because she said it. But because she said it like she was checking a box. Like someone had coached her through the steps of conflict resolution. Okay, I said. I didn't mean to make you feel excluded. But you did. Another pause. I thought you'd be busy, or that you wouldn't really want to be involved in wedding stuff. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that was her line. That was the excuse. You decided that for me. No, I didn't think you'd care. I care about being treated like family. Or at least like a friend. You didn't even give me the chance to say yes or no. She didn't respond to that. I kept going. You didn't tell me about the shower. You didn't ask me to be a bridesmaid. You didn't even send me a proper invite. And then, when the wedding fell apart, suddenly I mattered again. That's not fair, she said, her voice tight. You think I didn't want you there? I think you didn't care if I was. That landed hard. I heard her breath catch. And I meant it. Every word. Not to hurt her, but because pretending otherwise would mean carrying the lie another mile. And I was tired of dragging the weight of her silence. Underscore 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 underscore. She sniffed. I knew she was crying, but I didn't jump to soothe her like I used to. I know it looks bad. It doesn't just look bad. It was bad. I made mistakes. Yeah. You did. Another long pause. I wish you'd been there. So do I said. But not for the wedding. For the years before it. For birthdays you forgot. For the calls you never made. For the time you called me dramatic when I told you you'd hurt my feelings. She was fully crying now, and for once, I let her. Because sometimes people need to sit in the hurt they created. Not because you want them to suffer, but because that's where the growth happens. Underscore 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 underscore. So what happens now? She asked quietly. I don't know, I replied. But I'm not going back to pretending everything's okay. Not just because you finally noticed I wasn't around. We ended the call shortly after. No promises. No plans. Just, the truth hanging between us like smoke that hadn't cleared yet. Underscore 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 underscore. That night, I sat outside and stared at the stars. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a supporting character in someone else's story. I felt like the author of my own. Part 6, After the Fallout, Something Like Peace. There's something strange about clarity, it doesn't hit you all at once. It arrives slowly, like sunrise through fog. You don't even realize how much darkness you were sitting in until the light creeps back in. After the call with my sister, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel angry. I felt tired. And, weirdly, free. I'd said what I needed to say. I didn't yell. I didn't guilt-trip her. I just told the truth. And in doing so, I felt this old version of myself, people-pleasing, keep the peace at all costs me, start to fade. And for the first time in years, I didn't rush to replace her. I let the silence sit. Underscore 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 underscore. The weeks that followed were quiet. No more calls. No dramatic texts. Just space. Mom reached out once or twice. She's having a hard time, she said. So am I replied. Because I was done minimizing my pain just to make someone else's easier to carry. My sister and I weren't at war. We just weren't talking. And that was okay. Underscore 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 underscore. During that time, I threw myself into small joys. I took long walks. Bought houseplants I couldn't name. Read books I hadn't touched in years. Started therapy. And slowly, I began to unpack what this whole thing had taught me. It wasn't just about the wedding. It was about identity. Boundaries. The quiet ways we disappear inside relationships when we're too afraid to take up space. I realized I'd spent years twisting myself into shapes that fit other people's expectations. I said yes when I wanted to say no. Laughed things off that cut me deep. Showed up for people who never saved me a seat. But now, I was done shape-shifting. I was learning to stand in my own outline. Underscore 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 underscore. A month after our call, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a card. Plain white. Handwritten note. I'm still figuring out how to show up for people. I'm sorry it took losing you to realize what that means. There was no name. But I knew it was from her. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. But because the silence between us was finally honest. And sometimes that's better than 1,000 forced apologies. Part 7, When the Family Starts Noticing. It started with my cousin. She texted out of the blue. I just want to say I admire how you handled all of that. You didn't make a scene. You didn't blast anyone. You just walked away. I don't know if I could have done that. I stared at the message for a while. Admiration wasn't something I was used to from my family. I was the quiet one, the one who went along with plans, filled in the background like comfortable furniture. Useful. Predictable. Polite. But now I was the one who left the room, and people were finally asking why. Underscore 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 underscore. Then it was my aunt. We were at a family dinner, my first since the wedding, and she pulled me aside while we were clearing plates. "You look peaceful," she said. "Thanks," I replied, a little unsure what she meant. "Whatever you're doing," she said, "keep doing it. Your energy's different now. Stronger." I didn't know what to say to that. But it stuck with me. Because it wasn't about revenge. Or attention. Or being right. It was about peace. And how rare it is for a woman in a family like mine to find it without apologizing for it every 5 minutes. Underscore 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 underscore. Even my mom, who had spent months trying to play the go-between, started to shift. She stopped trying to fix it. She stopped saying things like, "Maybe just give her a call," or, "You know how your sister is." One night, over tea, she said this. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About not showing up to things just to keep people happy." I nodded. "I think I've done that my whole life," she added. We sat in silence for a long moment. "You made the right choice," she said. "Even if it hurt. You chose yourself. And I don't think I ever learned how to do that." I reached across the table and took her hand. Because that moment, that was healing. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just real. Underscore 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 underscore. The best part? I didn't have to convince anyone of anything. I didn't make speeches or post subtweets or write an open letter to the family. I just stopped showing up for roles that required me to disappear. And eventually, people noticed. Not everyone. Not all at once. But enough. Enough to feel like I hadn't lost my family, just the version of me they were used to taking for granted. Part 8, the second message that felt different. It came on a Wednesday afternoon. Random. No holiday, no birthday, no family event brewing. Just a text from her. "I've been thinking about what you said. I didn't see it then. But I do now. Can we talk, really talk?" I stared at the screen longer than I should have. I wasn't angry anymore. Just cautious. Because words are easy. What you do afterward, that's what counts. Still, something about the message felt different. It didn't have the usual guilt-laced hooks. "No, I miss you," followed by a backhanded, "But you hurt me too." Just, "I see it now. Let's talk." I texted back. "Okay." Underscore 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 underscore. We met at a park. Neutral ground. Public. Casual. Safe. She brought coffee. I brought my boundaries. The first few minutes were awkward. Surface talk. Weather. Work. How fast the year had gone. Then she just said it. "I didn't realize how much I expected you to be my emotional safety net. Until you weren't there." I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. "It wasn't just the wedding," she continued. "I think I made our whole relationship about what I needed. And I didn't think about how much that took from you." That line hit hard. Because it was true. She took time. Took space. Took silence. And I gave it freely, thinking it was love. But now, I knew better. Love isn't about shrinking so someone else can feel bigger. Underscore 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 underscore. "I'm not here to ask for things to go back to how they were," she said. "Honestly, I don't deserve that. I'm just here because I miss you. And I get it now. Even if I was late." I nodded. Still didn't say much. Because for years, I filled every silence she left. I rushed to fix. To comfort. To smooth. But now I let her sit in the quiet too. And she didn't run from it. That was new. Before we parted, she said one last thing. "You taught me something. Not by yelling. Just by walking away. That stayed with me. Because boundaries aren't just about walls. They're about mirrors. They reflect people's behavior back to them. They show what we've been tolerating, and what we're no longer available for. And if people love you, really love you, they'll learn from the mirror. Not break it. Underscore 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 underscore. Did we become best friends after that? No. Did everything magically heal? No. But something opened that day. A window, maybe. And for the first time, the air between us felt breathable. Part 9, rebuilding, but this time on my terms. After that conversation in the park, there was no montage moment. We didn't suddenly start texting every day or tagging each other in memes. There were no, remember when, photo dumps or spontaneous sister brunches. But we did talk. Sometimes. And when we did, it was different. She didn't dominate the conversation. She asked how I was, really asked. She didn't interrupt when I told her I'd been feeling burnt out from work. She didn't pivot the topic back to herself within 30 seconds. It was subtle, but it was real. And I realized something: healing doesn't mean going back to what was. Sometimes, it means building something entirely new from the rubble. Something with more sunlight and fewer shadows. Underscore 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 underscore. The first time she invited me to something after the wedding mess, it was a small birthday dinner. No fanfare. No grand gesture. Just a message. I'd love it if you came. But I understand if you're not ready. I said yes. Not because I felt obligated. But because I wanted to see if she was serious about change. She didn't make me sit at the end of the table. She didn't ignore me when taking photos. She didn't act like she was performing for a social media highlight reel. She just let me be there. And that meant more than any apology ever could. Underscore 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 underscore. Over the months that followed, our relationship grew, but not back. Forward. She stopped asking for more than I could give. I stopped pretending I didn't need anything in return. We found a rhythm that didn't feel like one of us was constantly compensating for the other's emotional debt. And that rhythm? It gave me space to forgive. Not because she begged for it. But because I wanted to stop carrying the version of her that hurt me around like dead weight. Underscore 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 underscore. Mom noticed the difference. So did the cousins. But they didn't say much. Because, I think, they realized something, too, that what I'd done, missing the wedding, setting the boundary, letting the silence do the heavy lifting, wasn't about drama. It was about clarity. It was about choosing self-respect over family optics. And for once, no one tried to make me feel guilty for that. Part 10, not a happy ending, a free one. I used to think forgiveness was a finish line. You get through the hard part, survive the silence, maybe cry a little, and then, boom, you forgive. Cue the applause, roll the credits, hug it out. But now I know better. Forgiveness isn't a finale. It's a beginning. A daily decision to stop bleeding over wounds that have already scabbed. A moment-to-moment choice not to reopen the past just because someone else finally realized they were wrong. That's where I am now. Choosing peace on purpose. Underscore 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 underscore. My sister and I aren't best friends. We probably never will be. And that's okay. Because what we have now, mutual respect, emotional honesty, and space, is something we never had even when we were supposedly close. And honestly, I like this version of us better. It's slower. More honest. Less exhausting. We know where the lines are now. We know what happens when they're crossed. And more importantly, we both know who we are without needing to steal space from each other to exist. Underscore 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 underscore. I still look back at her wedding photos sometimes. Not out of regret, but because they remind me of what I didn't lose. I didn't lose my sister. I lost the role I used to play, the filler. The peacekeeper. The one who rearranged her calendar, her energy, herself, just to feel included. That version of me? She's not coming back. And I don't miss her. Underscore 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 underscore. Sometimes, people ask if I ever wish I'd gone to the wedding. If I wish I could have danced, taken photos, smiled for the sake of family. And my answer? No. Because if I'd gone, I would have betrayed the person I was finally becoming. A woman who doesn't perform her worth. A sister who speaks softly but with strength. A daughter who honors peace more than appearance. That wedding needed a show. I needed the truth. And I chose me. Thanks for watching this story to the end. I'm still new to this whole YouTube thing, so if you noticed anything that could be better, whether it's the pacing, the editing, the vibe, feel free to drop a comment. I'm learning as I go, and every bit of feedback helps me improve. More stories are coming soon, and I'm excited to grow this channel together with you. Wishing you an amazing day, and as always, thank you for being here.